Most men think they can spot a manipulative woman. They imagine someone dramatic, demanding, loud, but the truth is darker. The most dangerous narcissistic women don't announce themselves. They don't storm into your life with arrogance. They slip in quietly, wearing the mask of sensitivity, warmth, and fragility. At first glance, she seems different from the others. She looks attentive. She listens. She shares pieces of her past that sound heartbreaking. Childhood wounds. Betrayals from men who didn't treat her right. Personal fears she claims she's never told anyone. To most men, this feels like a once-in-a-lifetime connection. They think she trusts me with her scars. She must see something in me that she doesn't see in other men. But this is the first illusion. What feels like intimacy is often the opening move of a strategy. The manufactured vulnerability. By showing pain too early, too quickly, she bypasses natural defenses. A man doesn't ask if the story is real. He doesn't wonder why she would confess so much so soon. He simply feels chosen. And being chosen makes him invested. That investment is powerful. Men are wired to protect, to repair, to prove they can succeed where others have failed. So when she reveals her wounds, he feels honored and responsible. The relationship is no longer just about attraction, it becomes a mission. Heal her, save her, make her whole. But here is the hidden reality. Genuine vulnerability creates balance. Both partners open up, both share, both support. Manufactured vulnerability creates debt. She shows pain, he provides care. She gets to be the broken one, he becomes the fixer. She sets the stage, he takes the role without realizing it. And the stage is carefully designed. Every detail she reveals will resurface later, not as a point of healing, but as a tool. That childhood trauma, it explains her outbursts. That betrayal, it justifies her suspicion. That insecurity becomes the reason he must constantly prove himself. What looked like confession was really construction, the building of a framework where she can always demand, and he can never question. The man doesn't see it yet. In the beginning, it feels intoxicating. He's needed. He's trusted. He's the only one who can calm her storms. But over time, the storms don't calm. They multiply. And every attempt to create stability is reinterpreted as failure to understand her pain. This is the first prison, the prison of obligation, where her suffering defines the rules of the relationship, where his needs slowly become invisible because they always appear smaller than hers. Once that foundation is set, the next phase begins. Emotional hostage-taking. Here, the covert narcissist shows her real mastery. She learns exactly which buttons to push to make him feel guilty, afraid, or inadequate. A tone of voice, a sudden silence, an unexpected tear. The effect is immediate. Feels responsible for her sadness, her anger, her disappointment. Men are taught from childhood to take women's emotions seriously, to measure their worth by how well they can provide comfort. The narcissistic woman exploits this conditioning with surgical precision. She doesn't cry because she's overwhelmed. She cries because tears bring him to his knees. She doesn't rage because he failed. Rages because anger forces him to submit. The cycle repeats until her emotions are no longer expressions, but commands. He learns that the quickest way to restore peace is compliance. And so he complies. Not because he agrees. Not because he wants to, but because resisting costs too much. The relationship now feels less like love and more like negotiation with a hostage taker. His peace of mind is always tied to her moods. His sense of safety depends on how well he anticipates her next explosion. And yet, to the outside world, she still looks like the fragile, wounded partner who just needs a little extra care. Friends see her tears and sympathize. Family hears her stories and blame him for not being understanding enough. The man is isolated not only by her tactics, but by society's instinct to side with her apparent vulnerability. By this point, 2 prisons have already been built: obligation and guilt. But the most powerful one is yet to come: the prison of doubt. Because once she controls his emotions, she moves to controlling his perception of reality itself. Gaslighting doesn't start with big lies. It starts with small contradictions. He remembers her promising something. She swears she never did. He recalls her saying something cruel. She insists he misunderstood. He feels hurt by her behavior. She tells him he's overreacting. At first he argues, he insists on his version. but she's calm, confident, unwavering, and slowly, doubt creeps in. Maybe I did misunderstand. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe my memory is unreliable. Over time, the arguments stop not because he agrees, but because he no longer trusts himself enough to disagree. This is the silent genius of the covert narcissistic woman. She doesn't just rewrite events, she rewires his mind. The man who once trusted his instincts begins to outsource his reality to her. What did I see? Ask her. What did I hear? Ask her. How should I feel? Ask her. By now, the transformation is well underway. He is no longer a partner in a relationship. He is an actor in a script he didn't write, following cues he barely notices, trapped in a story where he is always the villain, and she is always the wounded heroine. And just when he thinks he's found the rhythm, the rules change again. Because in her world, love itself is never unconditional. It's a test he can never pass. Love, in the hands of a covert narcissistic woman, is never a safe place. It's a performance hall. And the man is the actor who must audition for a role he supposedly already holds. Every gesture becomes an evaluation. Every word a potential failure. He tries harder, convinced that if he just does enough, gives enough, sacrifices enough, she will finally relax, finally accept, finally love without conditions. But the rules of the game make that impossible. When he listens more attentively, she accuses him of being distracted. When he gives her gifts, she wonders why he's trying to buy her affection. When he takes initiative, she criticizes his choices. And when he hesitates, she blames him for being passive. The goalposts move constantly. Every time he adapts, the standards shift, and he believes the shift is his fault. If only he were stronger, smarter, more attentive, more ambitious. If only he could fix himself, she would finally be satisfied. But that's the trap. Satisfaction is forbidden. Because satisfaction would mean the game is over, and her control would vanish. So she remains unsatisfied by design. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. A pattern where just enough approval is given to keep hope alive, but never enough to create security. Like a gambler chasing the rare jackpot, he clings to the few moments when she smiles warmly. She says he makes her happy, when she treats him with tenderness. Those rare moments feel more powerful than all the pain combined. Because they prove that the woman he first met, the vulnerable, kind version, still exists. He convinces himself that if he just tries harder, he can bring her back permanently. He doesn't realize that version was only a mask, shown briefly to secure his devotion. Now he's addicted to hope, and hope is what keeps him inside the cage. The longer this cycle continues, the more his identity erodes. He begins to measure his worth not by his achievements, his values, or his principles, but by her approval. His life becomes a scoreboard where the only judge is her, and the irony is devastating. He can be respected by colleagues, admired by friends, valued by family, but if she frowns, he feels worthless, because she has become the sole source of validation. This isn't accidental, it's part of the design. Slowly, she isolates him from the networks that could provide alternative mirrors. At first, it's subtle. She sighs when he goes out with friends. She questions the loyalty of people he trusts. She tells stories about how others don't really respect him, how they secretly laugh at him, how they only use him. Then she starts needing him urgently, always at the exact moments he has plans outside the relationship. A sudden crisis when he wants to see his family, dramatic argument the night he has an important meeting, an emotional breakdown just before he leaves to meet a friend. Every choice between her and others is loaded with guilt, and eventually he stops choosing. It's easier to stay home, easier to cancel. It's easier to shrink his social world until she becomes the only constant presence left. By then, she doesn't have to forbid him from seeing people. He's already trained to self-isolate. The cost of outside connection feels heavier than the reward. The cage is now triple locked: obligation, guilt, and isolation. But the most lethal blow is still to come. The destruction of his independent identity. It happens quietly. A hobby dismissed as childish, a book he loved called a waste of time, a career ambition minimized as unrealistic. Every passion outside of her is reframed as selfish indulgence. Soon, his world shrinks to fit her expectations. His music fades, his friendships wither, his ambitions pause. And what remains is a man defined not by who he is, but by how well he fits her script. This erosion doesn't look violent from the outside. To others, he just seems more focused on the relationship. He's compromising, like a good partner. But inside, he feels hollow. The things that once gave him energy and meaning are gone. And all that's left is the endless task of managing her moods. That hollowness shows in his eyes. Once sharp, now clouded. Once confident, now hesitant. Once driven, now exhausted. He may not recognize it, but what he's experiencing is psychological slavery disguised as love. His choices are no longer his own. His voice no longer feels trustworthy. His desires no longer feel legitimate. He lives in permanent self-doubt, addicted to the hope that one day, if he just performs well enough, she will reward him with peace. But peace never comes. Only smaller storms between the larger ones. Only moments of reprieve that reset the cycle. And when he finally dares to resist, to speak up, to reclaim a piece of himself, she deploys her most devastating weapon: reality reversal. In her narrative, she's not the manipulator. It's the victim. It's to tell friends he's controlling, that he's selfish, that he never understands her. She frames his attempts to set boundaries as proof of cruelty. She paints herself as the wounded woman trapped with an unkind man. And society, conditioned to protect women, often believes her. He finds himself not only fighting for his own sanity, but defending himself against accusations that invert reality. By this stage, the man barely recognizes who he's become. Once strong, now unsure. Once independent, now dependent. Once alive, now just surviving. The covert, narcissistic woman doesn't destroy men with one decisive blow. She dismantles them piece by piece until all that's left is a shadow. And the shadow doesn't ask for escape. The shadow only asks for mercy, addiction. That's the hidden engine of the covert narcissist's power. Not addiction to substances, but to her approval. To her rare moments of tenderness, the fleeting glimpses of the woman he first fell for. Those moments arrive unpredictably, like rain in the desert. Weeks of criticism, coldness, and chaos. Then suddenly, a night of intimacy, a genuine laugh, a gentle touch. For a brief instant, it feels like paradise. And the brain records it like a jackpot. This is how casinos keep gamblers chained to machines. Not by paying out consistently, but by paying out randomly. The uncertainty hooks the mind deeper than certainty ever could. And the covert narcissist uses the same schedule of intermittent reinforcement. The man begins to live for those rare highs. He tells himself the bad times are worth it because the good moments feel so powerful. He rewrites the story in his head. She's complicated, but she loves me in her own way. She just needs healing. If I stay strong, she'll get better. What he doesn't realize is that he's not in love with her anymore. He's in love with relief. The relief that comes when the storm pauses. It's the relief that comes when she smiles instead of scowls. The relief that comes when she gives him back for a single night the illusion of connection. It's not love, it's trauma bonding. Psychologists define trauma bonds as attachments formed through cycles of abuse and intermittent kindness. The brain confuses the relief of pain stopping with genuine affection. And so the victim clings harder even when the relationship is destroying him. By now, he has become what she always wanted, an emotional appliance. Always available, always responsive, always attuned to her needs, never demanding his own. His thoughts revolve around her moods. His identity revolves around her approval. His future revolves around keeping the peace. And yet something inside him whispers, a faint memory of who he used to be. The man who had dreams. The man who laughed easily. The man who lived without walking on eggshells. That whisper is the crack in the cage. Because the truth is, covert narcissists don't fully erase their victims. They bury them, and buried things can still breathe. Recovery begins the moment a man stops asking, "How do I fix her?" Starts asking, "What happened to me?" That question is dangerous to the narcissist because it shifts the focus away from her needs and back to his reality. It begins to restore the one thing she's worked so hard to destroy, his trust in himself. At first, the awakening is terrifying. He sees how deeply manipulated he's been. He feels shame for staying, for compromising, for silencing himself. But that shame is misplaced. He didn't stay because he was weak. He stayed because he was human. Because his empathy, loyalty, and hope were turned into weapons against him. And once he recognizes that, everything changes. He realizes that love isn't supposed to feel like performance. The intimacy isn't supposed to feel like a test. The partnership isn't supposed to erase identity, it's supposed to strengthen it. From there, the path is hard, but clear. Step 1. Reclaim boundaries. Understand that her emotions are hers, not his responsibility. If she's upset, it doesn't mean he failed. If she's disappointed, it doesn't mean he's inadequate. Her storms are not his weather. Step 2. Rebuild external connections. Call the friend who was pushed away. Visit the family member he avoided. Speak openly about the confusion and pain. Isolation loses its power the moment light enters it. Step 3. Restore identity. Pick up the book she called a waste of time. Return to the hobby she mocked. Revisit the ambitions she minimized. Every act of self-expression is an act of rebellion against the cage. The narcissist will resist. She'll escalate, she'll cry, rage, accuse, manipulate. But once a man begins to see clearly, her tactics lose their magic. What once felt like truth now reveals itself as theater. What once felt like love now exposes itself as control. And slowly, step by step, he walks out. The covert narcissist never admits defeat. She framed the ending as his betrayal, his cruelty, his weakness. But in reality, it's his first act of true strength. Because leaving isn't just leaving her, it's returning to himself. The man who survives this kind of relationship doesn't come out unscarred, but scars are proof of healing. And with healing comes clarity. He learns that vulnerability is only real when it flows both ways. That love is only real when it strengthens, not erases. That respect is only real when it's mutual. And perhaps most importantly, he learns that peace doesn't come from managing someone else's storms. It comes from building a foundation so solid that no storm can shake it. That's the truth covert narcissists never want exposed. That men can rebuild, they can learn, that they can walk away. And once they do, the cycle ends. Because the moment you choose sovereignty over slavery, the predator loses her power forever. So if you've recognized pieces of your own story here, understand this. You're not broken. You're not weak. We're targeted because of your strength, your empathy, your loyalty, your desire to love deeply. Don't let those qualities be stolen from you. Reclaim them. Direct them toward people who can truly reciprocate. Toward a life where love is not a performance but a partnership. Because the covert narcissist may steal years, but she doesn't get to steal your future.